I love backups. No, that's not true. I hate backups. Backups are the worst part of working in IT, running a Homelab, or even just protecting your personal data. It's this necessary evil that we all know is important, but we rarely take seriously until it's too late. Well, that was until I started using Synology's Active Backup for Business. Hey there, Homelabbers and self-hosters, Rich here. This video is all about backup, specifically Synology's Active Backup for Business. No, Synology is not sponsoring this video. I wanted to make this video because I genuinely love this software, its features, and the fact that it is free, assuming that you have a Synology NAS, of course. Let's get down to business. First, a quick overview of Synology Active Backup for Business. Synology Active Backup for Business is a backup platform that is available on Intel-based Synology NASs. Unfortunately, if you're using a more budget-focused Synology NAS like their ARM-based models, you're out of luck. The software has a comprehensive list of features that is absolutely unheard of for the price tag of free. For example, Active Backup for Business will natively back up physical Windows, Mac, and Linux servers and computers using an installable agent. It can back up Windows network shares, rsyncs, NetApp, and Nutanix file shares directly, and my favorite, it can back up virtual machines directly from VMware ESXi and Hyper-V. There's even an active backup service for backing up your cloud resources from Microsoft 365 and Google Workspace. All of that, and for the price of free, just feels too good to be true, but it's actually legit. Now, before I go into showing you all the stuff that I'm backing up and how I'm using it, we do need to spend just a bit of time talking about my use of the term free. Synology NASs aren't cheap. They're one of the most expensive NAS makers in the NAS market segment. So to be clear, the term free is about the software itself and not the hardware. Roast me in the comments if you'd like. There are plenty of other free backup software platforms that are free to use out there that don't require the caveat of having a Synology NAS, but you still need a storage target to hold your backups anyway, so there's really no such thing as free in the backup world if you think about it. Anyway, let's talk about how I'm using Active Backup for Business. My Synology NAS is a DS3622XS Plus, which is one of the largest standalone NASs that Synology makes. And full disclosure, it's got a pretty large price tag to go along with it. I have it filled with aging Seagate IronWolf 8TB drives, and its raw capacity is roughly 46 terabytes. One of the nice perks of this NAS are the 10 gig copper Ethernet connections, which make transferring data quicker. You obviously don't need a system that large to run backups. Any of the smaller Intel-based Synology NASs will be able to run Active Backup for Business. If you're interested in why I'm using the DS3622XS Plus, we've got a video about that. I'll put a link in the description. Anyway, let's take a look at the interface and talk about what I'm backing up currently. This is the UI for Active Backup for Business. In typical Synology style, it's pretty straightforward and understandable at a glance. On the left side is your navigation menu, where you'd set up and manage your backup jobs for each kind of system. As I mentioned, ABB, yeah, that's what I'm going to call it now since Active Backup for Business is a mouthful to say over and over again, will back up other Synology NASs, Windows PCs and Macs, Linux servers, file servers, and of course, virtual machines. As a side note, the cloud backup is handled by either Active Backup for Google Workspace or Active Backup for Microsoft 365, which are separate installable apps and not part of ABB itself. On the right side, we have cards that provide at-a-glance information about the number of protected devices, a backup calendar that gives you a quick red, yellow, green status on your jobs, ongoing backup activities if some are currently running, info about the last backup time, storage status broken down based on device category, logs, and a nifty little graph of data transferred over time. My backup workload is relatively simple. I'm currently backing up a total of 6 computers in my home using the backup agent, and all of these systems are Windows PCs. I'm not currently backing up my Mac OS system, and that's because support for backing up Macs is a recent addition to the software, and because Time Machine works really well, so why change it? On the virtual machine side of things, I'm backing up all of my production VMs, of which there are a total of 12. I'm using VMware ESXi and vCenter as my hypervisor of choice, and ABB natively handles change block tracking, making incremental VM backups quick and easy. And lastly, I'm backing up all of the 2GT Google Workspace stuff. This includes emails, G Drive, calendars, contacts, docs, sheets, you name it. This is the UI for Active Backup for Google Workspace. It follows the same overall design as ABB and shows you similar information about the status of backups, the types of users, quantity of data, and everything. Each backup has its own unique options, configurable retention periods, and scheduling, so you can customize everything exactly the way you want and keep your data for as long or short as you feel is necessary. Clients can be configured to compress and encrypt their backup data in flight, set bandwidth consumption limits for running backups, and suspend and wake systems before and after backups are run. Another thing that I'm just kind of blown away with is that ABB has native deduplication automatically built in to help cut down on disk space usage. Here's an example of the deduplication numbers I'm seeing with my system. I have 2 backup repositories set up currently in ABB. Both are located on the same system, but I've chosen this approach so I can logically separate out my VM backups from my client PC backups. The top repository, cleverly named Backup Repository, is where my VM backups are stored. And as you can see, ABB has a 2.9x data reduction ratio on the data stored there. If we hover over the info icon, we can see that my total backup size is 6.3 terabytes in size, but deduplication has saved me 4.1 terabytes, leaving me with an actual storage usage of 2.2 terabytes. That's fantastic. Let's look at my client backups. The client backup repository has a dedupe ratio of 2.34x, which is fantastic. Over a total of 27.3 terabytes of backed up data, deduplication has saved me a massive 13.9 terabytes, and with compression, saved yet another 1.8 terabytes of data, cutting my total client backup storage size down to 11.7 terabytes. That is a hell of a savings. For those of you coming from the enterprise world, you've probably seen higher deduplication numbers in more expensive and specialized backup systems, things that cost many tens of thousands of dollars, so the fact that ABB has this feature built in for free is pretty amazing. Okay, so that's an overview of the backup side of things. Let's take a look at the restore side of ABB because they've done a pretty fantastic job with that as well. There are essentially 2 ways to do restores depending on your restore objective. Device-level restores are done from the ABB UI. ABB is capable of doing bare metal restores of failed systems using bootable media that allow you to fully recover a failed disk onto a fresh new disk and get your desktop up and running again. On the virtualization side of restores, ABB walks you through the process of picking an available restore point, selecting a restore platform, which for us is vSphere, choosing between an instant restore or a full VM restore. Instant restore is something you only see in expensive backup solutions from the likes of Veeam and Rubrik. Choosing instant restore allows you to start the VM from the NAS's storage instantly, and then you can do a live migration back to your primary VM storage. And that's a lot faster than doing a full VM machine recovery that does the copying first and then starts the VM after it's been completed. There's obviously a big caveat though with using instant restore, and that is to make instant restore a viable restore method, your NAS needs to have high-speed network connectivity and higher performance media inside of it to make running VMs off of it viable. People with 1 gig connected NASs are just going to have a bad time and should just wait for a full VM restore to complete. And ultimately, it all depends on what your recovery time objectives for your VMs are anyway. We'll select full VM restore to keep things moving here. Next, you'll be asked if you want to overwrite the existing VM with the restored copy, place it in a new location, or change its settings. Then you'll be walked through where you'd like it placed in your virtual infrastructure, including which host you'd like it placed on if you have multiple hosts. You'll choose the storage location for the restored VM, which network to connect the restored VM to, and finally, a Done button to kick off the restore. All this is super straightforward, so let's talk about how you'd restore files and folders. File-level restores are done through the Active Backup for Business portal app, which is part of the install package for ABB, so I guess we'll call it ABBP? We'll just call it the portal. Anyway, the file restore portal is very straightforward and simple. On the top right of the screen, you can select your role and task, with the task being the system you've backed up. Right now, we've got one of my Linux VMs selected. On the left side of the screen is the file tree of the file system, which can be expanded out to find the files you're looking for, and when you find what you need, the right screen will show you the files in the selected directory. Any one of those files can be restored in place or downloaded via the browser to your PC. On the bottom is a visual timeline of your restore points. As you can see, I have 7 daily backups, and then they roll to monthly. Zooming out, you can see even older backups I have of the VM, all of which are selectable and restorable, making finding a deleted file quick and easy to restore. For completeness, let's have a quick look at the restore portal for Google Workspace. Restores for cloud backups are done through their respective portal app, and since we're using Google Workspace, we'll open the Active Backup for Google Workspace. Again, a very similar layout to the backup portal we just looked at. At the top, we have the role, also known as the user account backed up from the cloud, and the task is the backup job. If you had multiple cloud backups configured, you'd need to select the task that had that user you wanted to work with. By default, the portal loads into Google Drive, and we can see some files that have been backed up from the cloud. If you needed to restore emails, calendar events, or contacts, you'll need to switch to them via the little 4-square icon next to the task. From there, you can select and restore or export any of the data you're looking for quickly and easily, just like the ABB portal. And that is pretty much it in a nutshell. All super straightforward, easy to use, and no bullshit. Look, I've spent quite a bit of my professional life living inside of different backup systems, everything from Symantec Backup Exec from back in the day, to IBM Tivoli Storage Manager, pour one out for that product, and more recently Veeam, all of which basically made me hate backing up data for one reason or another, so discovering Active Backup was kind of a breath of fresh air. Now, there are more features that I didn't touch on because they don't apply to me, like application-aware backups for things like SQL servers, distributed backup repositories, and more. So if you're coming from the enterprise side of things, you'll find it checks most of the boxes, all with basically no limits on backup clients or licensing or maintenance costs. And lastly, my big takeaway from this for anyone who's still watching at this point is if you have an Intel-based Synology NAS, there's really no reason you shouldn't be backing up your stuff because it's incredibly easy and it's free. And that, friends, will do it for this video. If you liked it, throw us a sub and a like, and if you have a beef with anything that I've said here, let me know in the comments below. Special thank you to our YouTube members. You guys help keep the lights on, and we thank you for it. If you'd like to help support the channel, consider becoming a member or buy some swag. It all helps us keep making videos. And now that you finished watching this video, how about checking out this playlist over here of other great storage reviews we've done in the past? If you're looking for your next great NAS, we can help you find it.